What's going on, everybody? It's Brian Tripp. I'm back at the law offices of Jeff W. Parmer. We got Jeff Parmer with us. And today, this week's video, we're going to talk about being a closing coordinator. You have essentially closing coordinator type of people in your office, I'm assuming?
Yes.
So if you followed me for any period of time, I talk about this a lot. If you're a wholesaler, and we're specifically talking about being a wholesaler in this particular video. If you're a wholesaler, your job is to be a marketer. You're a marketer. You're out there to find deals. Number two, you're out there to obviously negotiate deals. You have to negotiate a great deal that your potential buyer is going to want, right? The third thing that I believe, your third job description, if you're a wholesaler, and I've been saying this for a long time, guys, and this is one that gets overlooked a lot, is the fact that you are a closing coordinator and you cannot take that job lightly. And I want really Jeff to kind of hammer this point home because you work with a lot of wholesalers.
We do.
So if say I want this thing, our last video we just did last week, if you haven't watched it, go back and watch last week's video. We just got done talking about, how can we speed this process up? One of the things, how can we speed the closing process up? One of those things that we can do is us, the wholesaler, we can do certain things that make your life and your job easier, Jeff. What are some of those things that we could do?
Well, when the contract comes in for us to close, typically it comes in from the wholesaler, and the wholesaler is our only point of contact at that point. We know the names of the folks involved, but we don't have their contact information. So having the wholesaler either provide the contact information for the parties that are involved, or either be willing to be the liaison between us and the owners and buyers would be very helpful as things come up during the closing process and we prepare for closing.
I think that last thing you just said is huge. But let's talk about the first thing. You said there's two things that we could do that you don't get this a lot, it sounds like. Provide contact information of both the end buyer and the seller. And if there's a realtor involved, it'd be the realtor instead of the seller.
Yes.
So get that contact information to your closing attorney. Hopefully it's going to be Jeff. The second thing I think is super important. Be willing to be that liaison, the middle person, the person that's going to be communicating between you, the closing attorney, and the buyer and the seller.
Right.
Just talk about that. How important is that?
Well, it's very important, especially after we get the title commitment back. If there are any issues, especially on the seller side, such as mortgage payoffs that we need to get, or if there are any liens, judgments, that sort of thing that we need to get wrapped up, it's very important to be able to make contact with that seller and get the information from them that we need to get that cleared up so that we can get it ready to close.
For sure. I think real estate agents, this is one thing I feel like that they do right, is all real estate agents just across the board, doesn't matter who they work for, they all kind of have a process that it's almost like a checklist. You do this, then you do this. You just talked about, if there's a mortgage payoff. These are things that wholesalers, it's not uniform at all. Wholesalers don't really know that these are things that we should be checking for. Asking our sellers, is there a mortgage? And if there is a mortgage, it's our job, the wholesaler, to get this mortgage, the payoff quote.
Right.
At least try to facilitate that. Give us one tip. What's the best way? Just get the information to you guys to order the payoff, or is that something that we should?
Typically, the seller needs to order the payoff because the lenders that are providing the payoff normally ask for social security numbers, which we won't have and really don't need to have at that point. Loan numbers, which we won't have because that's not usually on the loan documents that are recorded at the probate office. So seller usually orders those, but sends it to us either by fax or by email.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Guys, I think this is a great video. Thank you so much, Jeff, for sharing some of that. I think this is super important. You are the closing coordinator. If you want this deal to get closed in a timely manner, you need to take the initiative and you put the onus on you to actually get out there and get this thing closed. Be in constant communication with your closing attorney and with the seller and with your buyer. Constant communication is the key, guys. Tune back in next week for another great video from Jeff Parmer.